Hey guys, welcome to my new video. So in this video, I'm going to show you a bunch of tips and tricks on how to register for a course because I got a comment asking specifically how to register for engineering courses, but it's pretty much the same for all majors, so I'm just going to show you how to do it. The only thing is once you successfully ETAM into your specific engineering major, you're just able to access those specific major courses, but that's the only difference. So in this video, I'm not only going to include like a step-by-step on how to register for classes, I'm also going to give you some tips and some additional tools that you can use to register. On opening the schedule builder, you have to make sure that you select the correct term. That means selecting the correct semester, year, and location. For me, it's going to be fall of 2025, College Station. By the way, the schedule builder can be found in your Howdy portal. The first thing I'm going to show you how to do, and the first thing you need to do once you enter the schedule builder is to add courses. There are many ways to do this, and I'm going to show you each way that you can. Starting off with the bisection attributes, this is going to allow you to get all those university core requirements, which are certain genres of classes that the university needs you to take. And here I'll show you which of the skills or genres they want you to fulfill on how many hours of each. And this section will help you find which attribute you're trying to fulfill and which classes will meet that. Let me show you how this would look. First, select the attribute. In this case, I'm going to select the creative arts, then keep it as all subjects, and then it'll show you all the classes that will fill that. So I'll just click on this one, and then it tells you like the description, and then you just click add course. Next, by instructor, this is going to be helpful to find classes through professors. So in this section, you get to select from all the professors in A&M, and it's a very long list. I'm just going to select a random one, and then you can see all the classes that they teach. Moving on to by CRN. So CRN is basically like the ID number for a class. I'm going to talk more on it later, but it becomes pretty helpful later on. Moving on to the last section, the degree planner section, this one's going to be very helpful once you develop it with your advisor. This degree planner is going to show you how many hours you're going to take, which classes you're going to take, and just make sure you hit all the requirements you need for graduation. I already did it with my advisor, and it's super helpful for making your schedule because you click on this tab and you can just select all the classes that you plan to take for this semester. I censored mine for obvious privacy reasons, but all you do is check the ones that you want in your schedule and you just add them. For people that still haven't started at A&M and are watching this video to work on their schedule before going on their first year, you won't have a degree planner because it's something you do either if you're in engineering, it's something you do once you're already in your major, or if you're in another major, it's something you with your advisor once you're already at A&M. If you don't have a degree plan, the next best thing is to look at the course catalog. So for this example, I'm just going to show you what the industrial engineering course catalog section looks like. So find the College of Engineering, and in here look for industrial, and then there's all of these. I'm just going to do the bachelor's degree for industrial engineering. And then once you're in here, just click program requirements and it'll break down all 4 years of your bachelor degree and like how many hours each year. And the thing is, the only con of this is that it's not as personalized as having your degree plan that you make with your advisor because, for example, I had AP credits my first year, so I did not have to take this class and I didn't have to start with this math. So having a degree plan is a lot more beneficial in the long run, but when you don't have that before you make it, this is a great guide to use. Moving on to the first section, the by subject section. This is the one that I feel that people use the most. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to select two random courses. So I'm going to start with ISIN 210, just as an example. I already took this class. So the classes are usually described through four letters, describing the major or like the type of class, and then three numbers, which just is the course number. To select the course, just simply click Add Course at the bottom there. And I'm also going to add a communications course just for the purposes of showing you guys how to build the schedule in the next step. 203. Okay. So just go up, click Build Schedule, and as you see, communications and ISIN are already selected for us. So now comes the fun part, which is generating our schedules. Usually you won't only have two classes, you're gonna have like a bunch of classes and you're gonna get sometimes thousands of different combinations of schedules. But since we only have two, we only got 48 results. Let's take a look at some of these schedules. This Friday night section is something I did myself, and I'll show you how to do it in just a little bit. Scrolling back up, if you click in this little blue eye circle, it'll give you some really important information that you need to watch out for. From my experience, there's three main things that you really need to watch out for. First, you need to check if it's online or traditional. It'll say traditional in person or web-based. Second, make sure you have the right location. You don't want to register for a class that is in another campus or for another college or anything like that. Third, if there's any fees, you're gonna want to check that because I once signed on for a web-based class, which seemed like amazing because I didn't have to go to campus or anything. And then I realized that it had a $2,000 fee. So definitely make sure you look into the fees. Looking at the next schedule, I'm going to show you a little feature that lets you lock in a class so that as you browse through different schedules, that class will stay. Going back to the home screen, I'm going to show you how to make a break. So the Friday night thing I said I would talk about, that's a break. So breaks, you can do kind of whatever you want. I'll show you how to set them up, but I usually use them to keep my Friday nights free, to make sure I don't have classes at certain times in the morning, to make sure I have a proper lunch break every day. And you can kind of use it for whatever you want or wherever, whenever you don't want to have classes. To show you how it works, I'm going to create a break so that I don't have classes in the morning. So I'm going to name it No Morning. And I don't want to have classes between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. And this applies for all days of the week for me. Make sure you have the right term selected at the bottom, but if you want this break to apply to all of your semesters every time you register, just click Ongoing. So now I have two breaks selected. Going back to the generated schedules, there are some buttons at the top that might be helpful to you. There's the shuffle button, which will shuffle all the schedules as you browse through them, pretty self-explanatory. The heart button is also pretty self-explanatory. Whenever you see a schedule that you really like and you don't want to lose it within all the generated schedules, you just click on it and you name the schedule, whatever you want to name it, so that you can identify it and it'll save into your favorite schedules. This advanced options tab next to the favorite tab is pretty useful so that you can make sure you have enough time between each class, especially when you're trying to make sure that you have enough time to walk from one class to another. I usually pick 20 minutes, but I highly, highly recommend that you use Google Maps to map all your classes out to make sure that you do have enough time to get from one class to another. We're going to look into this sections button right here. This just serves as another way to reduce the amount of generated schedules you get, but by like manually selecting the classes that you want in your schedule using the little checkboxes over here. By clicking on this Disable tab, I can show you some characteristics of certain classes. Starting off, if you're not in honors, make sure you select the class that isn't honors. It'll say it right here. And also make sure that you meet the restrictions applied to that class. For example, this one says you must be a freshman between 0 to 29 hours or a sophomore between 30 and 59 hours. Also, some classes do offer free textbooks, and that's always a nice thing to take a note of. As you can see, all the disabled ones are disabled because there are 0 seats left in that class. It's shown like in a red color. If you go to the other tab, the Enable tab, you're gonna be able to see how many seats open a class has. Sometimes it's a very slim amount, so you want to grab that class as fast as you can. Another good tool in this section is the advanced filters. You can find the classes by instructors, section attributes, CRN. So I'm just going to do this CRN right here to filter just so this class pops up. There's all these professors, these section attributes, and I'm just going to find the CRN here, this one. And it, as you can see, it only shows that class. And it's good because even if you leave the schedule builder and you come back to it another day, that filter will save. So you can keep checking on it to see if any spots freed up and stuff like that. So it's quite helpful. To save your changes, all you have to do at the end is click Save and Close. Now I'll show you how to actually register for classes when the time comes. So first, once you already have the schedule that you want, you go to it. You click send to shopping cart, and then it'll show up in your cart. And once it's in your car and it is your right time slot to register, you can click the register button and it'll register you for those classes. You can always edit the classes that you sent to the cart by removing them. Just click edit cart and then you check the classes that you want to remove and just remove them. Another really quick way to add classes is by using that CRN number I talked about. This is really helpful when there's a class that maybe has like a 1 seat left and you're trying to register for it super quickly. You just copy and paste that CRN number and click register and it'll register it for you like right there and then. It's really good instead of having to add to cart and then register. This is just a very efficient way to do it. I want to show you this really, really helpful tool that is not affiliated with A&M, but it's still super, super helpful when you're registering for classes. I don't know anyone in my school that doesn't use this when they're registering for their classes. I will say though, the rankings in here for each of the professors don't necessarily determine how your experience in that class is going to be. I've had professors that were ranked really low and professors that were ranked really high. And sometimes I don't feel the same way that the people that ranked them felt. I learn a different way that they do, and I'm trying to take a different takeaway from each class. So it really depends what you make of it and how you learn. So it's kind of shaped to your own experience, is what I'm trying to say. So don't take these rankings to heart. So to start, just look up your school, make sure you select the correct Texas A&M because there's Texas A&M Commerce and whatever, make sure it says College Station. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to look up a random professor. I'm going to type in like random letters and click on whatever professor pops up. Okay, so upon on opening this, you can see the percentage of people that would take this again and the level of difficulty that people rank this. Also, make sure you look at the sample size. The more people, the more accurate the ranking is probably going to be. This is a pretty good amount of people. Scrolling down, you can see some top tags, basically what most people said about him in their reviews. And then down here, you can see a lot more information of specific reviews that people submitted. So reviews are anonymous, which is great. Also, make sure you select the right class because it depends from class to class how professors perform. So in this specific review, it shows you the quality, the difficulty, all this information, whether you need a textbook, if their attendance is mandatory, if they would take it again, and just super good information. And then also they give you a detailed written review of what they thought about this class. So this is my Howdy portal, and this is the registration readiness tab. And this is how I can tell if I'm able and ready to register. So before you're able to register, you have to do all these things right here, and they all have to be green. Or else, once you're trying to do your schedule and register, it'll give you a message and stop you from registering if you haven't done these things yet. Down here, I have my registration times, which just pay attention to the term and the location. Because, for example, for me, Galveston is just irrelevant because I don't go to Galveston. So these registration times are just not really important to me. But if I were registering for the summer of 2025, then I would have these time slots to register for my classes. And then it tells you your registration category. And what this does is there's different things that determine how early of a registration you can get. And for example, like the more seniority you have, the earlier registration you can get. It also depends on maybe if you have disabilities or if you have an on-campus job. Those things can also affect if you have an earlier registration time.
So this is it for the demonstration part of the video. I just wanted to end the video with some tips that I've collected while registering for classes myself. Sometimes you will have registration at 4 a.m. in the morning. It's happened to me. It probably will happen to you at some point. It is safer to just wake up at 4 a.m. and try to register half asleep. From my experience, I've seen that it doesn't matter that much unless it's a class that everyone's trying to get into. But even then, like having an early registration time, like date, is a lot more beneficial than waking up earlier on your registration time. I would still do it on your first few times, but in my experience, it hasn't made that much of a difference to wake up at the crack of dawn. You will also be able to register, like if you're registering for spring semester, you're getting time slots during winter break that you can try to squeeze in into classes you weren't able to get. You will have to refresh your schedule builder over and over and over again. You can't like sign up for notifications for when it frees up. But I have been able to get to some classes like that where like one person drops the class and I'm able to like quickly register for it. You can also rely on ad drop week. It is like a little bit riskier, but I know people that will do their entire schedule in ad drop week. I do not recommend that. But during ad drop week, if there's a class that maybe you couldn't get into, you could potentially just wait till somebody drops it during ad drop week and like try to get into it. I've done that with one of my classes before and it was fine. I do want to warn about 8 a.m.s. It might seem okay because maybe you had high school and it started at 7 a.m. and you're like, okay, 8 a.m., I can do that. It's horrible. As someone that had 8 a.m.s every day for an entire semester, it gets to a point. It's hard to wake up, you don't want to go, you end up skipping it, or if you're unlucky like me, you get attendance requirement, which means there's an additional grade at the end of the semester based on your attendance, and it could be the difference between you getting an A and a B. I will say sometimes 8 a.m.s can't be avoided. I've had a lot of major specific classes that will only be available at 8 a.m., different professors, but always at 8 a.m. The thing is, life in college just ends up going till later. Like, even if you're not like going out or hanging out with friends, like for some reason you just end up going to bed later, like life just goes on till later. Another tip that I have is to explore how do you learn? How do you take in information best? What would you prioritize? A good professor or not having an 8 a.m.? Do you want a professor that's really involved in your learning or a professor that's a little more hands-off? Can you study by yourself? Do you have the self-discipline to teach yourself the stuff you need to learn to succeed in that class? So I just think you need to ask yourself those questions when you're making your schedule so that you can see what works best for you. Another tip I have is to go to your first week of class. I feel like most people go to their first week of class. I don't think that's an issue, but going to your first week of class helps you understand what each class expects from you. Is there an attendance requirement? Is it really worth it for you to go? I'm not encouraging you to skip your classes, but sometimes you just need to work smarter, not harder. My experience, I had a statistics class this semester, and first day I showed up, the teacher would speak really, really slow. He would repeat things over and over again. I just wasn't learning. I wasn't taking anything away from this class while I was there. I felt like I was just wasting my time. So I did skip every single class the entire semester apart from like the first 2 classes. I sat down and I found online resources, YouTube videos, and I truly found ways to teach myself the material that I needed to know for the exams in order to get an A in the class. So it's really up to you. I'm not telling you to skip classes, but if you feel that that class and that professor isn't working for you and that's not the best way for you to succeed, then maybe it's better for you to find an alternative route. But ask yourself, can you do that? Okay, my very last tip, and I think it's a very important tip, is to try to make friends in each of your classes. I'm not gonna lie, I struggle with making friends in my classes. Sometimes I don't see anyone I know, and I just don't wanna just go up to someone random and start up a conversation, but it's so helpful. Sometimes someone will know something you don't, you will know something they don't, and you can work together and teach each other the things you don't know. And teaching is the best way to know if you really understand something, and it's so much better to get through classes with others than just on your own. Well, this is the end of the video. Sorry it's like a little gloomy outside. I hope you found it helpful. I'm gonna include the links for the course catalog and Rate My Professor below. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. I will try my very, very best to try to answer them. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.